Okay, everyone back. When we last left off, we were talking about Caspar David Friedrich, and I'm going to talk just a little bit more about him, show a couple more images of some of his paintings, um, like this one. I remember when I first saw this, when I was an undergraduate taking art history class, it was pretty amazing to realize that someone was painting like this in 1820s. Um, and I have one more that I think really, this for me, and when you think about um, that Rembrandt that we looked at earlier, how this painting and that painting kind of have a similar uh, spirit about them, and this is such a perfect romantic image, this lonely landscape. Um, And after Friedrich, I also want to talk about another German, Philipp Otto Runge, who was German who lived for at least a while in Rome. And that's important because there were another group of Germans who were living in Rome at the time, a group of German painters called the Nazarenes. And these paintings along here are different examples from different of theirs. And you don't need to know any of those particular artists, but the movement, the Nazarenes, is somewhat important because their goal, the idea of trying to go back to this sort of, medieval and early Renaissance mindset and look about how to represent religious art, that kind of goal to go back in time was very influential, somewhat influential on in French painting on the style de troubadour, but also especially influential on the Pre-Raphaelites. I know I keep bringing the Pre-Raphaelites up; they will come at the end of the lecture. Um, but Runge also was really important because he was very interested in color theory. As you can see, the color here has a much more kind of 20th century kind of vibe, and it's kind of pairing with warm, kind of yellows and yellow oranges, than with kind of cools. Um, and anyway, that leads to talking about another painter who was also obsessed with color theory and obsessed with using color in a very expressionistic way, and that is Turner. So we're jumping back to England now. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of jumping back and forth between countries. Um, and Turner is also a uh, he is a romantic spirit. He was stubborn. He painted like no one else. He refused to paint like anyone else. Um, and at times his work went in and out of fashion and he didn't care. Um, and his work continually got more and more kind of abstract as he got more and more interested in these effects of atmosphere. He was less concerned with actually representing things, but more representing the mood of the scene. Um, and so if we look at this one, and once again, like the previous image in this one, and remember what I said earlier, when the Romantics when they tend to show or to deal with contemporary events, it's often contemporary events that are on the tragic or even catastrophic level, like ships that sink, and disasters at sea. Um, in this particular painting, fighting Temeraire. I think Temeraire is such a great name for a battleship. It means bold in French. But there were other versions of Romanticism starting to spread in Norway. There was a lot of influence from German painters, and maybe in secondhand ways coming from someone like Friedrich, uh, and led to some beautiful paintings like this one by Good. Uh, and then in Italy, we have a much more restrained version of Romanticism that is kind of like half neoclassicism, half Romanticism, and in a way very much influenced by what we'll be talking about Ingres later, what he was trying to do in France. which leads to France. Um, and we will continue with France in just a little bit. So we're going to talk in the next part about Delacroix and then the rivalry between Delacroix and Hang, and then that leading to eventually to Jericho. And but this is where we're going to end for now. All right, I will speak to you in a little bit.